Hi there berries, welcome to the League of Legends patch 12.4 support tier list. I hope you guys are doing well and looking forward to the Renata release. If you are looking for Renata gameplay, because she does get released this patch, this channel will have loads of it. And we've already got a Renata support guide, which I'll put at the end of the video, but you can always go and check that out whenever you like. So make sure you subscribe to get Renata content. So every 2 weeks, if you're new here, we do a support tier list. And we go through all the support changes, and then we talk about what champions are generally going to be good for unranked until low plat-ish ELO. Okay, so that's this. This is what the target audience is basically for. Now, in terms of changes, there aren't too many to talk about for this patch. There is one potentially slightly confusing support item change, which we'll talk about. But overall, there's nothing to really be worried about. One thing I do want to talk about is that last patch, Janna got hotfix nerfed. Now this is because Janna was being picked in the top lane with Smite, and they tried to nerf that. And to nerf that, they just they nerfed a lot of Janna's things. So that happened a few days after the patch, so I didn't get to relate that into my tier list. But just in case you were unaware, Janna lost passive movement speed on her W on the Zephyr. And she lost passive movement speed in general. So she lost a lot of movement speed, which means that her mobility went down and dodging skill shots down the lane went down. They also slightly nerfed her E in terms of when you slow or knock up an enemy. The extra shield and heal bonus that you get, the duration of that buff is slightly reduced. Now, on the whole, yes, this is a Janna nerf. But overall, we didn't do too much to support Janna. I mean, she was tier 1, I believe, in the previous tier list. And we'll see where she is on this tier list coming up soon. But just to let you know, Janna did get nerfed. So if you're wondering like if she felt a bit weird, that's why. Now going into 12.4, we have a Nami E revert. So I'm not even sure I necessarily even covered that in the 12.3 video. But they took 5 damage off Nami's E and now giving it back. Whatever, I don't know why. They kept the movement speed buff, which I'm still regarding it as a buff, where Nami's movement speed on her passive was flat movement speed for 1.5 seconds, I believe. But then they made it like they doubled it at the start and then ramped it down as it goes through. I went over why I thought that was a buff, but they're keeping that. So Nami just basically just got, you know, she's back to normal plus the extra movement speed buff on her passive. Everything else there is honestly nothing really left to talk about. Blitzcrank's getting a slight health regeneration nerf from 8.5 to 7.5. But in terms of actual champions, there's not much going on there for the support role. There's a lot of AD carry changes here. So for example, there looks like there's an Ashe ulti missile speed increase. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work out, but Ashe's arrow is going to be faster, potentially, maybe at longer distances. Lucian got a slight buff. Isaiah got a decent-ish buff as well, so you might end up seeing slightly more Rakans paired up with Isaiah, because you might see some more Isaiah players because of that buff. So just that you know there. Everything else is very, irrelevant really. Zeri got nerfed, is getting nerfed this patch. It's a seat of a picture, but it's basically just a lot of nerfs to Zeri. So if you were getting stomped by Zeri, that shouldn't be happening quite as much. But yeah, so the system adjustment at the very bottom, they're nerfing once again. I was talking about the Janna top. They're nerfing basically people taking the support item in the top lane, because they would just not be top lane and they'd roam around the map and cause chaos. So they're trying to nerf that playstyle. So if you're familiar with taking minions on the support role, once you take a X amount of minions in a period of time, then you will get the minion rule debuff, which basically means that you get reduced gold from minions, and it's quite severe as well. So what they've done here is they've nerfed the they've nerfed the support item if you're taking CS earlier on and into the game. Once it's past the 5-minute mark, it should go back to normal. it really shouldn't affect support players in general. There are some like super extreme cases where your AD carry is AFK at the start of the game and you're having to take CS. You could be impacted there. And if your AD carry dies like once or twice super early onto the lane and you're like, you know, you have to last hit because your AD carry isn't there, you could be impacted there as well. So those are like two extreme cases where as a support player this will affect us. But on the whole, in the majority of our games, we should be fine. Okay, so nothing really to worry about there. So let's have a look at the actual tier list itself. Once again, it is geared towards unranked to like low plat. So it's catered for like basically 80-85% of the low ranked player base. Lots in the do not playlist. As usual, I'll just hide my camera here so you can just catch everything if you want to pause the video. There's lots of champions there that I deem not viable at the moment for solo queue, and we'll also talk about Renata as well at the very end if you're wondering about her. I don't actually have an icon for Renata, so that's why I wanted to leave it at the end. Not because it's like, oh my god, clickbait. Tier 4, you kind of got the usual suspects. I did add Vex. People were complaining like I didn't add Vex. Vex isn't that great as support. I've only seen her a couple times and honestly not too impressed either time, but there you go. There she is. Yeah, you got Thresh is still really difficult for people to play in those ELOs. No changes there. Seraphine and Rel in the same kind of kit. Bard too difficult as well. Vel'Koz is probably if I was to choose one champion here that I could move up to potentially tier 3, it would be the Vel'Koz. Vel'Koz potentially tier 3. I think everything else I'm very comfortable with in keeping into tier 4, and I don't really want to cover it too much as we do a lot of generalizing, covering anyway on a lot of these champions anyway over the tier list. So to save my sanity of my normal viewership, then we'll skim past those. Tier 3. Okay, so here's a slight interesting one. Okay, I've been analyzing win ratios on all the supports in different ELOs and also my own obviously experience and stuff with the champions. I think this tier 3 is looking pretty solid for that unranked to low plat list. Here's a couple of things if you are high ELO or if you're in iron or bronze. Okay, Brand is extremely good in iron and bronze, very, very good, but do not rely on him too much because he falls off like crazy going into gold plus. Brand sucks in gold plus, okay? But in iron and bronze, his win rate is actually particularly high. Now, the reason why is that he does so well in those low elos is because he does a lot of damage, right? But people in iron and bronze don't necessarily know how to punish the Brand, so he gets away literally with murder. So when you get into high ELO, you'll figure that people will punish the Brand more, and then you'll have less effect. And his win rate does fall off a cliff around about gold. So what I'll say is this. If you don't really care too much about improving in League and you just want your little gold emote champion skin thingies, just play Brand. If you want to do like an AP carry route, play Brand if you're in like iron or bronze, right? And you feel like you deserve to be silver for some reason. Or gold, right? So Brand is one of those champions. Yuumi is super, super, super good in high elo. In low elo, she's really, really bad. That is because she is reliant on her AD carry. Lulu's in the same kind of boat, but she has a little bit more independence than Yuumi. And that's why she's slightly higher up. But yeah, Yuumi, very good in high elo, not so good in low elo. But you can start transitioning into Yuumi if you are entering into like plat, basically. Xerath I've moved up from tier 4 to tier 3. I feel like kind of like in the Vel'Koz kind of route. I felt like, you know, tier 3, I think his win rates are higher than Vel'Koz. Sorry. Vel'Koz's win rates are higher. No. Xerath's win rate is higher than Vel'Koz. Sorry, these champion names are like... But you got 150 champions in your head and talking about them all the time, sometimes we get muddled. Okay. So Xerath has a higher win rate than Vel'Koz. Okay. That's because his range is particularly high and good, and his damage is super strong at the moment. But he has got vulnerabilities that people do exploit in the higher ranks. But I would, if I had to choose, if you wanted to play AP only from these two champions, say if you had to choose between Brand and Xerath, I would actually recommend you necessarily play Xerath, because you would have some more relevance, should I say, in gold and plat. Because if you play Brand at silver, you will have to transition off something to something else. Nothing really else I want to talk about these champions. We talk about like the Karma and the Morgana and the Pyke a lot anyway, so just wanted to add that to the tier 3. So tier 2, there's been a couple of adjustments here. Okay, so we moved Senna down from tier 1 to tier 2, and Leona down from tier 1 to tier 2. And I think Lux might have been tier 2 still last patch, and the tier list. And Lulu and Zillion are staying. Because the Janna as well, I think I moved from tier 1 to tier 2, and that's because of the nerfs. Okay, we've already kind of gone through that and how it feels kind of oof, but she's gone down from tier 1 to tier 2. I want to pay my attention to the first three: the Senna, the Lux, and the Leona. Okay, so Senna is, okay, don't get me wrong, she has a really good win rate in high elo. The problem is that she is very mechanically difficult to play for a lot of people, and honestly, if you're iron, bronze, silver, playing Senna generally for the majority of the player base, it's going to be very difficult. Now, if you feel like you can do the mechanical challenge of doing it, or if you have maybe a decent AD carry history, you can give it a go. The people that are able to play Senna to maybe around about even 75-80% of her potential will do very well. Okay, it's just that there is a huge, vast skill difference between a bad Senna and a decent Senna. Okay, so if you feel like your mechanics aren't good, or yeah, if you legit don't think your mechanics are good, then don't play Senna. Okay, she's one of the hardest supports to play, but she has got a really good win ratio. Okay, just to throw that out there, she is doing really well. So if you want to like practice your mechanics, then Senna is still that champion to do, because she's doing really well right now. Now Lux and, well, let's just talk about Lux. Lux is still doing really well. If you feel like you need to win the laning phase, take Arcing Comet over First Strike, otherwise First Strike, so you get more gold income. She does really well at countering the other mage supports. She's really good against Brand. She can compete against the Xerath and the Vel'Koz and the Zyra. So she beats basically all of the AP mages if you come across that, and you will do probably a lot, in particularly as I mentioned, like Iron, Bronze, Silver. There's a mentality of supporters feeling like I need to do damage to carry game, as opposed to I can actually carry the game by supporting my team and making sure I've got good ward placement and potentially roaming around. So if you're coming across a lot of mage supports, Lux is like the best counter to that. So in tier 2, that's why she's doing really well. Overall, I'm finding that her win ratio is going down a lot. Now, my best tip in a recent video, even in Diamond, okay, people are just throwing out their bindings for no reason. As soon as you throw out that binding, particularly once you start entering maybe gold, plat, people will exploit that because you won't have any form of crowd control. Okay, so if you are going to play Lux, the majority of reason why Lux's win rate is at the moment only like 50.5% at the moment is because people keep throwing out her Qs instead of throwing out her Es. I don't know why people are prioritizing throwing out her Qs. I have no idea why, but use your E to harass. And if you get dead on center with your E, they're slowed, and it should set you up for a good binding. Okay, so only use binding in a case where you have to crowd control in order to pill, or you have a, like almost a guaranteed setup to make a play, or like if your jungle is coming down and you have to like hope it connects almost. Okay, so yeah, that's my best advice for Lux. But stop throwing out her Qs randomly. Her win rate will go up, and then Riot will eventually nerf her. Okay. Leona tier 2. I've moved her down from tier 1 to tier 2 because there is a champion in tier 1 that I want to talk about more, and I feel like he has crept up in the tier list, and has kind of outshone Leona lately. But we are talking about Leona. Leona is still very good, and if you are interested in playing a tank that is relevant in high elo, Leona is still the best tank to play in for like Plat Plus overall, just because she has like a lot more tools. So really nice crowd control, really nice engage. The problem is that in low elo, like iron and bronze, is that when you engage, people like their brain is still loading and processing that their support went in, and by the time that bar has completed in their brain, you're already probably dead. So I'll just say what's in tier 1. Tier 1 is Blitzcrank, right? So Blitzcrank, you hook a champion, and it's super obvious that there's an enemy person right in front of their face, so they can go, oh, bad guy in front of me, I must attack, right? I know it seems like very simple-minded the way I'm putting it, but it's unfortunately true. And you won't see people, once people get more experience with the game and league and stuff, then, you know, things like this won't be as bad. But yeah, Leona is still, as I said, really, really good. If you're in gold, I would still say like Leona is definitely an absolute really good option. I mean, she's a really good option in any elo. Honestly, she's still the best proper tank in the support role. But yeah, the Blitzcrank hooks are just way more obvious for people to engage and follow up on, and he did get a slight nerf this patch, but overall it's fine. These supports are the best at the moment. The Uwu tier 1. Okay, so we did a little shuffle here. Soraka, Sona are still doing very, very good. I talk about them way too much. They're really, really good. Very easy champions to play, Sona in particular. And you can honestly just not have to do too much with those champions, and you can do really, really well. Okay. We talk about those a lot, so we won't go into it. Nami, I was considering putting down into tier 2. Her win rates overall aren't that great, but I feel like she's still really, really good. I might just have some fish favoritism here, but I feel like Nami is still really, really good and can be played in the majority of situations, even when blind first pick. We talked about the Blitzcrank already, and why he's tier 1. His win rates are really, really good, and he's always been like a noob stomper, and he usually gets banned a lot. So if you want to play a hard engaged tank and Blitzcrank's banned, that like Leona is like the next best thing to do. Now Zyra, I've moved back up to tier 1. Now, I'm not sure about this, and she's definitely tier 2, okay? But her win rates, for some reason, across the board right now are particularly high. So I don't think it's either because of, you know, people maining Zyra carrying that win ratio through, because the amount of games people are still playing on Zyra is quite high. Because in theory, this is like the one time, like in a long time, where I've gone like, well, Lux is actually in theory better than Zyra. But the only thing I can think of in the low elos is that the plants like are actually doing a lot more work than they are in high elo, like to the point where it might be possible that the plants are actually being ignored too much in lane in particular. So plants are just getting like way more uptime than they should be, and that's why her win rate's higher. That's literally the only thing I can think of. Yeah, I really don't have an answer for this one, because as I said, I feel like, you know, Lux is the anti-mage. She counters that a lot. Zyra is particularly good against squishy targets if she can get in range with her root, but she's also particularly good against tanks because you go Leandries, and she can apply the debuff on multiple people quite often, right? But she offers more crowd control than a brand, and it's more reliable because even if you miss your root, you can still put down those slowing plants as you're casting your E, so that the worst case scenario is you'll get like a 25 to 50% slow, depending on how many slowing plants you've got up. So overall, she's got like some forgiving gameplay if you do miss a skill shot. So yeah, she's up there. I mean, it's the first time I've put a champion in tier 1 and go, I'm not quite sure why she's doing particularly well in that ELO between unranked and plat, but she is a solid champion to play anyway. But I hope you guys enjoyed the tier list. I can hear my son calling me, so I need to go. If you do like this type of content, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I shall be here tomorrow with Renata gameplay from Wednesday onwards. Oh, we didn't even talk about Renata. I hear my son calling me. I think she's going to be around about tier 3 for new players. She plays a lot like Swain. She's a very risky champion to play. She'll probably get banned a lot. But I think at the moment she's going to be tier 3, but we haven't got to test her yet on live servers, so it's going to be a bit iffy to give that information. But she has to get up close. She's quite squishy early on, and she has a snowball lane. So that might be too much for a newer player to do. But there's a good chance that she still might be good in iron and bronze. And then after that, I can imagine her win ratio starting to fall off a bit. So we'll have to wait and see and confirm, but I think she's going to be a tier 3 support. So yeah, look out on the YouTube channel for that, and maybe I can adjust my opinion over the coming days. Now for real now, see you tomorrow. Bye guys.